Chapter 146. Shizun, is she really getting married? From that day forward, Mengpo Hall was the setting of an extraordinary sight. The table reserved for Yuheng Elder, long off limits to even the boldest disciples, now accommodated one more Wei. Disciples passing by would frequently see Moran and Chu Wanning seated across the table from each other, eating together. And every time Moran would pick a morsel from some dish and place it in his Shizun's bowl. Whoa, check it out, Mo Shisheng's doing it again. A group of nearby disciples whispered with their heads together, betting among themselves in hushed voices. Look at that huge piece of brisket he just put in the elder's bowl. I bet Yuheng's not gonna eat it. I'll bet the same. Yuheng doesn't seem to like beef. Then I'll bet he does eat it, since he ate those pigeon eggs the other time. As the little spies looked on with bated breath, Chu Wanning frowned and poked at the beef with his chopsticks, then said something to Moran with a gloomy expression. They were too far away to hear much of anything, but whatever Moran said in response made Chu Wanning's expression even gloomier. The three disciples who'd bet Chu Wanning wouldn't eat instantly brightened up, so intent on watching the pair that they nearly brought their soup spoons to their noses instead of their mouths. Look, the elder's not eating it. He's refusing. Don't jab me with your elbow and keep it down. If Yuheng Elder hears the lot of you placing bets on him, he'll skin you alive. Heh, I don't care. Those 20 silver leaves are all mine. That smug disciple reached for the stack of silver leaves piled on the table. But before he touched it, he heard his friends beside him whisper hastily, Hold on, the bet hasn't been called yet. The elder's chopsticks are moving again. Huh? A second glance revealed that, sure enough, Chu Wanning was picking up that piece of beef brisket. The group of gamblers anxiously watched, as though it were their hearts grasped by the pair of white jade chopsticks, trapped and tender from pinching. He's gonna eat it. He's gonna eat it. He's gonna eat it. 20 silver leaves. 20 silver leaves. 20 silver leaves. The disciple who had bet Chu Wanning would eat the brisket chanted, jiggling his leg nervously. Suddenly he froze, crestfallen. Oh. The Yuheng Elder had flung the beef right back into Moran's bowl with no heed for Moran's protests. The disciple watched in dismayed silence. Close, so close. I knew the elder wouldn't eat it. Come, all the leaves belong to me now. The disciple who'd lost the bet sighed and slumped face first onto the table. He turned his head to stare at Chu Wanning, anguish written over his face. Elder, I was wrong. I shouldn't have placed bets on you. Now I'm so broke, I can't even afford spiritual stones this month. But just as the poor disciple had resigned himself to misery, he saw Moran's elbow shift. That tall, broad frame leaned forward as he said something to Chu Wanning. Then, right before the disciple's eyes, his very own Mo Shisheng once again picked up the beef brisket, this time accompanied by some vegetables, and brought it right to Chu Wanning's lips. What? The disciple was stunned. Was Mo Shisheng planning to feed the elder from his own chopsticks? Chu Wanning was clearly not accustomed to this kind of treatment. He knocked Moran's chopsticks aside with his own, face severe as he said, the words all too easy to read from his lips. Put it down. Smiling, Moran set the beef and vegetables down, not into his own bowl, but into his Shizun's. What was Chu Wanning doing? He sighed, and oblivious that he was in full view of a dozen or so rubbernecking disciples, silently ate it all. The dumbfounded silence descended over the gamblers. None were more stunned than the disciples who'd been so assured of their victory. They watched as the silver leaves slipped out of their grasp. On the other hand, the heretofore wallowing disciple was instantly revived. He jumped up, his eyes aglitter as he cried jubilantly, Ah, what a comeback! How the tables have turned! Comrades, my sincere apologies. but I'll be taking those leaves off your hands. Hello, money, money, money. Let's do this again tomorrow. Another round tomorrow. The master and disciple pair remained blissfully unaware. Moran had his chopsticks in hand, slowly finishing the rice in his bowl as he watched Chu Wanning, head lowered, eat the brisket. It was warm inside Mengpo Hall. Moran had his left sleeve rolled up above his elbow, revealing a long stretch of shapely forearm, lean and muscular. The muscle beneath the honey-toned skin rippled as he ladled out a bowl of soup. When Chu Wanning wasn't looking, he dropped a few more ribs into the bowl, allowing them to sink beneath the broth where they would be less noticeable. Shizun, have some soup. It's good for warding off the cold. Is it clear soup? Moran blinked innocently. I think so. I wasn't paying close attention when I got it, so I don't remember. Chu Wanning examined the surface of the soup, upon which floated some tender green cabbage leaves. It looked quite enticing, so he accepted the bowl and tried a spoonful. Is it good? It's all right. Then don't waste it, okay? Moran smiled. Make sure you finish it all. Chu Wanning leveled him with a mild look. You'll want to talk. Next time, don't fill your tray with so much food that you can't finish it and need me to help you. Okay, next time I won't take so much. Moran waited till Chu Wanning nodded before lifting his own bowl and blowing on its surface to cool it down. The dispersing steam softened the bold lines of his face. Hot soup was a certain kind of magic. A mere bowl of boiled water with meat, vegetables and seasoning, but the resulting concoction could warm you right through, from the stomach all the way to the heart. Sharing soup with someone you liked provided a contentment like the wake of a pebble tossed into a lake, ripple after ripple spreading across the surface of the water, scattering the light that fell across it. Moran unconsciously let out a soft sigh as he basked in the peace he'd worked so hard to attain in this lifetime. It turned out that the ceaseless passage of time brought to one's lips tasted like a simple bowl of soup. Once he'd slaughtered ruthlessly for a bowl of soup. Now that same dish brought him the bone-deep anguish of regret. He cradled the bowl in his hands and drank it all. Whether it was the uneasiness in his heart, the uncertainty of the future, or his remorse and guilt, he didn't want to dwell too deeply on it. The good days in his life had been so few that he felt he had to fight tooth and nail for every single one. It wasn't that he didn't want to savor it, to take things easy. In truth, he was terribly envious of people like Chu Wanning, who, by virtue of being born to wealth and privilege, could afford to stroll through life in a leisurely manner. Moran could not afford to be leisurely. His possessions were meager, and what little he had, he'd always had to fight for like a teeth-barred beast. And what he managed to win, he always feared would be snatched from him, so he would wolf it down at once. In this, he had retained a primal instinct. He didn't feel secure until the food was in his belly, safe in his stomach. Only then would it truly be his, never to be taken away by another. When he was little, he had fought other kids for food. In his previous life, he had fought the world for power. But in this life, he only wanted to fight for this bowl of soup. He knew full well that he'd done many evil deeds, and he dreaded the inevitable reckoning of fate to come. He only wanted to grasp whatever sorry amount of joy he could and flee with it, leaving fate and its reckoning far, far behind. He was no different from any other who had committed grave sins, and after seeing the error of their ways, wished to start over. Beneath Moran's perpetually grinning exterior ran a deep insecurity. He knew the saying, "As a man sows, so shall he reap," was more than empty words. Whatever quiet moments he had were underscored by a lurking sense that this current peace was a falsehood, a mirage, an illusion, that he would one day wake to find himself back in that empty Wushan palace, alone in his personal hell. So he wanted a little more soup before it went cold. This way, even if the evil he'd done caught up with him one day, and he was spurned by the world, judged by fate, and shoved once more into the cold depths of the abyss, he would at least have this mouthful of warmth to sustain him on that lonely road. "What's on your mind?" Chu Wanning asked. Moran said faintly, coming back to himself. He smiled. "Nothing much, just spacing out now that I'm full." Chu Wanning glanced at his empty bowl. "All done?" "Mm-hmm." "You seem to really like today's pork rib soup." "Yeah." Chu Wanning took up Moran's bowl. "Then I'll go get you some more." He got up and soon enough returned with a giant bowl of hearty soup filled to the brim. The bowl was hot, and after setting it down, Chu Wanning touched his fingers to the tips of his ears, warming his ears and cooling his hands at the same time. He sat down once more and said, "Go on then." "Well, that's a lot of soup." "Take your time." Chu Wanning said, "There's always more if you want it. No one's going to take it from you." This simple phrase was enough to stir Moran's heart. He cradled the bowl, lowering his inky black gaze. His voice was a little hoarse as he smiled and said, "Okay." How could Chu Wanning know that it took everything Moran had to hold back tears as he heard the words, "There's always more if you want, no one's going to take it from you," while holding onto that full bowl of soup? Chu Wanning had been gone for 5 years, and Moran had drowned in blame for 5 years. But now, after all of it, his Shizun was telling him, "Take your time." In that moment, Moran's heart hurt so much. The closer he drew to Chu Wanning, the more anguish he felt. It was easy to miss the affection hidden behind so many small actions, unless one paid very close attention. But now he was paying attention, and he could see that Chu Wanning treated him so indulgently, so warmly, so well. And to think he had squandered this person in his previous life. What good had Moran done in this life to earn the privilege to walk by his side once more? His heart quivered, writhing in pain. On one hand, he considered himself unworthy. He thought he should stay far away from Chu Wanning. How brazen he was to dare smile at Chu Wanning, try to treat Chu Wanning well. Utterly shameless. Yet, on the other, there was a constant yearning for him. Maybe this was okay. Maybe he could just let things be. They had so much left of the rest of their lives. Couldn't he slowly redeem himself? Atone for his past mistakes, bit by bit? Might this be okay? I, full of sin and returned from the dead, with these blood-covered hands from my past life, lift up this bowl of warm, rich soup in this one. I would kneel in repentance for the rest of my life. I would go willingly to hell thereafter, if only you would deign to share a taste of it with me. Shizun. Chu Wanning had arrived while Moran was lost in thought, pulling him back to the present. Truth be told, ever since Chu Wanning's death, he'd found himself filled with self-reproach and uneasiness, day in and day out. Wallowing like this was bound to give a person a morose and off-putting air. He'd worked steadily to bring his emotions under control, but it was really only in the last year or so that he'd mastered it. Still, once in a while, some small thing would get to him, and a single phrase or incident would send him back into a quagmire of self-loathing. When he lifted his head to look at Chu Wanning, his cousin started in fright at the pall of gloom that lingered on his face. Sheesh, what's with the long face, you damn mutt? Do I owe you money or something? Moran knew he'd slipped. He forced a smile and said, Food coma, that's all. Were you looking for Shizun? Go ahead and have a chat. I'll head out for some fresh air. Hang on, sit back down. This concerns you too. Concerns me? What is it? Chu Wanning gave him a measuring look. Don't get too upset when I tell you, all right? Just say it, Chu Wanning. Chu Wanning said. Okay. Chu Wanning had wanted to keep them in suspense a while longer, but at his Shizun's order, he got right to the point. We just got an invitation to Song Chutong's wedding. The color drained instantly from Moran's face, not because of Song Chutong's marriage, but rather Chu Wanning's imputation. Well aware of Song Chutong's character, Moran had kept a wide berth in this lifetime. There was absolutely nothing between them, and they had nothing to do with each other. But Chu Wanning. Why did Chu Wanning think Moran would be upset at the news of Song Chutong's wedding? Moran felt like his heart was being crushed in a vise. The fake Gojin behind all the trouble of recent years sprang to mind. That person lurking in the shadows. That person who was most likely also a reborn soul. Which meant they knew all about Moran's past and every sin he had committed. Pale-faced, Moran struggled to maintain his calm as he asked, And what's that got to do with me? What are you playing at? Chu Wanning looked askance at him. Rufeng Sect delivered the wedding invitation today, and Miss Song went out of her way to send you a personal letter. If you don't know each other, why would she write to you? Moran, it's not my place to comment, but when did you get mixed up with this woman? Moran's thoughts roiled, and he felt like thorns were digging into his back. After a good long moment, he said, A letter to me? Could it be some mistake? Nope. Chu Wanning produced an envelope from his robes as he spoke and slapped it onto the table in front of Moran. Here it is written in black and white. To Mo Xianjun from Chutong. There's definitely no mistake. Moran glanced at that envelope, his heart pounding like a drum. Countless thoughts flashed through his mind. This was indeed Song Chutong's handwriting. But why would she write Moran a letter right before her wedding, when in this life they had met only a few times, and those by chance? Chu Wanning crossed his arms, looking quite affronted. Are you planning to open it in your room, or are you gonna open it now so everyone can see? Moran eyed him, then turned and saw that Chu Wanning was also looking at him, his straight, sharp brows drawn together. Well? Chu Wanning's feathers were ruffled, his pushiness born of his disdain toward men and women associating inappropriately. If things really were as Moran feared, then there was no avoiding this. Moran felt faint. Even the tips of his fingers were cold as he reached out. Without another word, he took up the letter and opened it.